first. You should know that I have risen through the fire in colorful buckskin. The object of my desire is the color of my skin, so divided on my kin. Watch me turn the tables till we eating like some kings in beautiful headdresses. The culture is so impressive, I'm just hoping I absorb it when he passing me the message. Cause baby, it's depressing living in this mess we call a home. We should take it back and chokers resting on the collarbone. Arrowheads right along, the enemy like styrofoam, piercing through the strongest armor, death and genocide of foam. And still I stand, a singular red man with Jupiter-sized heart, forever repping my clan. The Eagles and old man, watching over my plans, talking real shit, baby, no faking here for the fans. I'm shouting out Bobby Jones, my auntie, my mushroom George. I'm drawing all of my strength from my people here before me, man. Big chief in the building, everybody take your place. Remove your feelings if you wanna ride with me. You about to go to war right now, no petty ass beef. When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? Blessed is the man with sons who walk beside him. There's not enough leaders out there we should be riding. They left our people broken, but homie, don't play the possum. Learn to grow yourself a set, cause you can bet there's nothing promised. They saying I'm a problem, they call me public enemy, but they don't understand that I hold it down for my family, and I hate it when they say that I won't be cause I'm native, cause in my mind we the strongest. We were built up for the ages. Hey, give me back mine before I take that. You don't want that, where my brain's at. Put in my pot with a braid of the sweet grass. Put a prayer up, if you ain't gonna ride, get back with your weak ass. No room for the weak, of the type of speech that brings us down. Need them soldiers to be strong when the bad man comes to town. Ride out. Big chief in the building, everybody take your place. Remove your feelings if you wanna ride with me. We about to go to war right now, no petty ass beef. When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me? When it all go down, who's gonna ride with me?
Hello, hello. This is Firewalker on the Talking Stick Radio, the Firewalker Show. I have my friend, my brother, my big brother, Canupa Gluha Mani from the Strongheart Warrior Society. I have also another friend on here from a Warrior Society. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and we have some more that's going to be calling in. We have a lot that's going on in the Dakotas, out there on the sacred land with these rainbow people. We're going to get it from the horse's mouth on what is actually going on out there versus reading social media from people just passing along hearsay. So, Brother Canupa, what's going on? And our other friend on the line, can you please introduce yourself? Can you introduce yourself first before Canupa takes the mic?
This is James Magaska Swan, United Urban Warrior Society.
Okay, the United Urban Warrior Society. And
yes.
Is the United Urban Warrior Society Lakota-based, or you are from another? Yes.
No, we're here in Rapid City, South Dakota. We have
cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get it started on what's going on. What I see from just social media is there's a group of people called Rainbow People. And I'm reading the craziest stuff about them talking about killing Indians and occupying sacred land and daring these Indians to come out here and try to remove them. Is that somewhat accurate, or is that, I mean, you can tell me exactly what's going on. I don't know how accurate that is.
Well, first of all news is good news, but the reality of what they're talking about That's how the media works, because these white sons of bitches had made that remark by desecrating the real responsibility that the land belongs to the Lakota people in particular, and in conjunction with what we're standing for. And so the young man that was invited on to tonight's show at the Strongheart's discretion and Talking Stick Radio, I want him to start off on how he took this responsibility to bring it out in the open, where our treaty people asked us to step up, and the independent nation called upon the Dog Soldier Society to step up and aid them. So go right ahead, James.
Yeah, about a week ago we got word that these guys were coming in here, and back in the 70s they'd had a verbal agreement that they wouldn't come to our sacred hills. Their ways are just totally opposite of our ways, and how we are as a people. And one of the things that they bring is they bring nudity, they bring drugs, alcohol. They're dirty, they're dysfunctional. They're just really a gross group of people, and we're talking 7 to 20,000 of them want to come to in our hills, and where they're going is to a place where our ancestors are buried. A place where we hold as sacred. It's the heart of who we are. It's our mother, and we've asked them. We says, no, you guys are not invited. We do not want you here. And their mentality is, well, we're a free-loving people. This is all our land. We can go wherever we want. So then our sacred pipe keeper, he spoke up. He told them, no, you're not welcome here. And then they started attacking him. So everybody that's told them no, they've attacked, and of course they've attacked me, and that's fine. I'm good with that. That they're playing my game when they want to attack me and make and threaten to kill me on videos and stuff like that. That's fine. Not my first day. But anyway, so we vowed. We told them. We said, if you think we're just going to roll over, we're not all. They say, well, there's all these other tribes out there, and they get along fine with it. Well, we're not all the other tribes. We're Lakotas. That's our sacred ground, and we're vowed to defend it,
What grounds do they have to occupy land that don't belong to them? I mean, how can you just go on somebody else's land and say, we're going to do this, and not expect to answer or ask permission to use it? How can they do that?
Because that's how they are. They're a free. They don't have no leadership or nothing. So, they go by their white privilege mentality. And the other thing too is they claim that it's their right because the land is federal land. That's why they're on federal land. But what they're forgetting is that this isn't federal land. This is treaty land in trust to the federal government. So it's not the same as going to Utah and going up into a federal park in Utah and having a camp out or whatever, because that's not somebody's treaty land. I mean, they stole it from a native in that area at one time, but this Black Hills is still under treaty trust. It belongs to us, and we don't want them here. And that was our whole point was, no, we don't want you here, and they want to argue and debate that, and they won't take no for an answer, So we're pushed in a corner, and they keep at this course. We're just going to have to go in there and remove them.
So it's treaty land. That means the federal government has a responsibility to the Lakota people to protect that land. Now, when people go and occupy places like let's say downtown Columbia, South Carolina, or go and occupy areas in D.C., and then the occupiers get out of hand, the government has no problem with sending law enforcement to go out there and control the people who's occupying. So the government is not trying to control these people, whether it be BIA, tribal police or whatever. Nobody's trying to help.
Well, I think, first of all, that we need to start with this question on this little strong principle is that both the Rainbow people and the Park Services that created this meeting on Monday, June 16th, approximately around 10 o'clock in the morning, both sides were invited. They invited the Rainbow people and the Tribal Council affiliates. Now, over this position, since this opposition took its stand on, Monday, the 16th, we gave them an ultimatum because they violated traditional protocol. First of all, you don't take your compromisable attitude and ask national parks. Remember, unappropriate government land means that it still belongs to indigenous people. It's not public land. And using public land, you got to consult with First Nations people, not a goddamn forest department. So when this meeting transpired, the elected officials from the Oglala Sioux tribe, Dennis Yellowthunder, Michael Guest is the enemy, and Russell Eaglebear from Rosewood. These are people that work for the tribal council that have a position, and also a treaty person by the name of Garver Goodbloom, who remained, silent, but he did an opening prayer. I was in that meeting where they barred Mr. Swan from, attending that meeting on that morning. And so what I saw was both sides compromising on where this attitude would lie. And first of all, both sides broke the protocol, which nobody ever contested. Not at the tribal council's discretion or not at the Rainbow people. And the insult that the Rainbow people did was they talked about peace, love, and harmony. And they talked about, how they clean up after themselves. Okay, I beg to differ. The point of that whole illustration is the fact that all white people lie. There's no fucking truth about a white man, okay? Now let's really get philosophical and let's get to the factual basis about what's going on here. It's about imperialism, where the white man is using himself as a fucking victim to try to capitalize off our land base. And so when the independent structure is already in place, remember, the Lakota and many others never gave up nation status. So as far as the Rainbow people go, they should have met that protocol and met with the legitimate people of Great Lakota Nation. And that didn't happen. Instead, they allowed the Park Service to dictate this responsibility, and they got our tribal governments and the Indian people fighting each other when they could have brought it to the table and created a more stronger protocol to administer that provision. Back to you, Firewalker.
How many rainbow people did you say is out there, and what exactly do they do? What's the purpose for them meeting?
They have these yearly get-togethers, and they go up there and they have some kind of they're hippies. They're leftovers from the '60s. They're kids that never grew up. They're vagabonds. They travel around. They thumb rides all over. They don't. A lot of them don't have jobs. They just, they're just kind of a low end group of humanity. And I really hate to judge people like that, but they're no good. Everywhere they've gone in the communities, they have these little tactics that they do to get things. One I heard where they pee in the produce at a store, and then when they throw the produce out in the garbage, they go scavenge the produce out so they can eat. There's just hundreds of these little stories on how these people are. They had one of these gatherings in Florida, and there was a couple people got murdered. There's young girls are getting raped. It's just a drug fest. It's a big friggin' party out in the woods, clear up in nowhere, without any law enforcement. They run around bare ass naked, and then they dance around and do whatever they do, And I tried to tell them one time, I says, this is a sacred place to us. You're going to do this on our ancestors' graves, that's disrespectful to us. We don't, and then they say, well, we're a tribe. And I told them, no, you're not a tribe. You're a bunch of white people, misfits that are trying to make up your own thing. You're made up. You're not real. You don't exist.
Wow. You know what? You're bringing something familiar. Here's what happened. Wow. This is crazy. On Facebook, I got an inbox from some woman from California who was asking me questions about our tribe and about our reservation, about our land. And this lady said that they had a tribe of people. I said, well, what's their name? Oh, well, we don't have a name. We're just a tribe of people who believe in herbs and Burning Mans and all these type of things. I think, are these people scoping out native lands around the country? Because that sounds like the same kind of people that you guys are dealing with.
Yeah,
I believe rightfully so, because one of the things is a lot of the other callers that are calling in, they've been watching these fuckers around the clock 24/7. And wherever these rainbow sons of bitches gather, they create, man, dysfunction. So the other callers that are calling in, can you allow them to kind of question that, open on a real strong pretext? Because I want to hear everybody's input. Because I called a number of people to be on tonight's show, little brother, and I want to hear it from all sides.
Well, whoever's on, if you can introduce yourself, please add to the conversation, help enlighten us on what's going on. I'm a student, so please join in.
Firewalker, this is Oyate Ota.
Oyate.
Yeah, we spoke before one time.
Yes, sir.
A few months ago. Who else is on besides Canupa? James Swan? Is that who it is?
We have Canupa on. We have one of the Urban Warrior Societies on from South Dakota. I don't remember his name, but he's on here right now listening. We have you, and I've been hearing the chime go off, so I think there's quite a few callers on here right now.
Anna's here.
And Anna, how are you doing?
Hey, yippah.
Are you James Swan?
No, I am James Swan.
Yeah, that's who I'm trying to get hold of. James, are you related to Rusty and Carol?
Yeah, those are my dad's brothers.
Oh, they are? Oh, I used to live when I lived in Rapid City, we used to live right up from Carol, that whole family, Swan family house.
Oh, okay. My dad was Orlando Swan.
Oh, Orlando, yeah. I don't know if I ever met him, but Carol was, a good partner of mine that lived right there. He was older than I was, but, he helped out quite a bit. And Rusty was just a little guy, so didn't hang around with him too much. But, yeah, I know your family and Day and everybody, yeah.
Cool.
Right on.
Well, anyway.
So, family, since this is being recorded live, when we're done with this interview, lots of people are going to hear it. So I would love for you, everyone that's on here, who's actually dealing with these issues, if you can share from your perspective on what's going on. Everybody has something to give. Canupa and my other friend on here has really been enlightening us.
I just wanted to know who I was talking to on the other end of that line there. But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now. Okay. Anyway, I mentioned this once before, Firewalker.
Okay.
Oliver Red Cloud at one time personally gave me the go-ahead to act in the interest of the Lakota Nation when he was gone. When I'm gone, he said, "You guys take over." That doesn't mean I'm a chief, that I'm a leader of the Lakota Nation or anything. I just speak on behalf of the Lakota Nation for their interest. And he would not, as far as I know, from what I know about Oliver and his family and his interests and everything,
can you please speak up for me?
He would not approve of the Rainbow people occupying the Black Hills for this purpose.
Oyate, can you please speak up for me?
I don't either.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Can you speak up for me? Because we're having, at least on my end, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, well, I am talking loudly.
Okay, I heard you better that time.
Okay, well, I won't repeat what I just said, but and I want James to know, Canupa knows, and I think you know this, that the Lakota Treaty of 1868 was a forgery. It is not a valid treaty. They conspired to forge that treaty, and they did. They forged signatures for that treaty. It is not a valid treaty. There is no treaty with the Lakota in 1868. That entire territory is independent Lakota state territory. And the only thing that makes it kind of their responsibility right now is that they have assumed jurisdiction in that territory. But we actually have jurisdiction. We are the rightful owners of that territory. That treaty was forged. I personally know this. I've seen the document that and the eyewitness testimony of that. And I just want James to know that that's the fact right there. And I personally presented this document to Chief Spoolscrow way back in '72. And he was the treaty chief at that time, and subsequent to that, we went into Wounded Knee, and I'm sure that he conveyed this information to Chief Oliver Red Cloud at that time. And so they knew, they're not here now, but they knew that this was a forged treaty. And I just wanted that to be brought out. And
right.
For people to know that we have jurisdiction, what we say goes, and Canupa's, been instructed by the Treaty Council to advise these people that they're not welcome there, and so that's the way it should stand. And so I just wanted to bring those points out and make it clear.
Appreciate that. So you're dealing with a forged treaty, which means
yes.
The land was never
Right.
There was never a business deal.
Nation state status.
Mm-hmm.
It reverts back to that because that's the status it was in before 1868. It's right there under international law. And if people, don't believe that, go do your own research on it, and you'll find out.
Now, how does the federal government take this news of this forged treaty? I'm assuming that they don't like when you point that out.
Well, I don't know, but they're the ones that produced this document.
They're the ones that produced the document.
Yes. I don't know why they did that because it's really incriminating.
Right.
On their behalf, but nevertheless, it's an official government document, handwritten back in 1868 and transcribed into type, and into book form.
Yeah. Somebody messed up on their end and revealed the truth, and you capitalized on it. You got the document.
Yeah.
So you can show and prove that the land is yours. So your word basically is what you say goes. So if you say they have to go, then they have to go. So then what's the next? If they don't go and they refuse, then how's that to be handled?
Well, if they want to dispute it, then they can bring a case in the International Court of Justice, and we can subpoena all these documents, and they can subpoena it, and they can get the documents of discovery or whatever they need, discovery, and show them what we're talking about. Present it. Open a case on it.
Has there been any other cases of rainbow people trying to occupy other native lands?
No, I don't have background on that. I wouldn't be able to tell you, but probably.
Because I'm just wondering, with the person seeking me out and with what's happening out there in the Dakotas, I wonder has any other indigenous people, any lands have been on their target list. Just wondering.
Firewalker, this is Anna. I do have the answer to that if you'd like to.
Yes, of course.
Hey, everybody. Throughout the course of the last few days, I've been working with Canupa on the documents and, getting a lot of the media out, and also been involved with some conversations with people that I'm friends with and are friends of friends. And so the Rainbow people were down in Paiute territory recently, and a similar thing happened where they went to the tribal council and not the traditional people, and that created division and chaos. And I have a friend who's Mayan, and she relayed to me that the Rainbow people were down in Iximche, in Mayan territory, and created all kinds of chaos. So their history with Indigenous people is not very good, and it's gotten worse. And I just got off the phone right before I got on the call with everyone. I was just on the phone with another person in Rainbow who knows some of the people on the ground, and it's one thing that I'm hearing a lot today is that there's a sort of a younger group that's getting involved with the Rainbow families, they're called, and they don't have a lot of the same sensibility that what they call the old guard in there does. Mm-hmm. And they're a lot more arrogant. There's a lot more drugs and alcohol, violence, domestic abuse, sexual assault. There's a lot more of that in this young crowd that's starting to get involved, traveler kids, and a lot of addiction, and so that seems to be maybe one of the nexus of the problem. Not that the Rainbows are, have any spectacular history, because they've always been known as people that are culturally appropriative of Indigenous culture from all over the world. They'll take anything and turn it into their own craziness. But it seems like their gatherings have become more violent and more drug-fueled as of late. In fact, I heard just recently, maybe within the last few days, a Rainbow-associated gathering out in Oregon. There was a woman that was being sexually assaulted, and they found her hanging by a rope. Whether she committed suicide or was actually murdered, that wasn't known. But it's pretty amazing, because throughout the last 36 hours, I keep hearing these stories. Rainbow people are sharing these stories across social media. People that are friends with Rainbows, and they keep coming up with these it used to be this way, but now it's more violent, and now it's like this. And so it seems like what's happening in the hills right now is just a continuation of what's been happening on some other Indigenous land, but it's worse because right now it seems like these young people are the ones that are really driving this insult to the Lakota people, and a lot of the older people don't even know these young people. And I was just on the phone, and I said, do you even know who these people are? Do you know, are they agents of the U.S. government? Because there's a lot of things happening in Lakota territory right now related to sovereignty. So how do you know that you're not being used? In fact, we do think you're being used by the U.S. government to cause division and chaos. And that really sobered up the woman that I was speaking with. So, I know it's a long answer, but I think what's happening with the Lakota right now is something that's certainly been sort of coming down the road, and the way that they've gone about coming into the hills is entirely dysfunctional and entirely inappropriate, outside of customary practice, outside of traditional protocol, and unfortunately we're facing all that now.
Well, let me ask you, the Rainbow people has been around for quite a while, and leaving a trail of crap behind them, in their path. Just from the pictures that I see right now online, it looks really nasty and dirty. If they've been around this long, we don't hear nothing about this on CNN, ABC, and all these media outlets. We don't hear nothing about the rainbow people on the news, on the mainstream media. So what is the media for the indigenous people? Because I know I'm not the only one out here, with the mouth and a show to give everybody a voice. There's a lot of shows, different tribes. Is anybody getting involved? Any other tribes getting involved to get your voices on there and get it out so we can all find out about this, since the mainstream media is not talking about it?
I think one of the reasons why, and this is Canupa again, the reason why that we always have a media blackout is because white America always uses their type of bigotry to neutralize the infrastructure of what is important. Because white America has always been played the victim like these rainbow people. Now, I had a falling out with this woman by the name of Barbara, because she talks about Indian people, women in particular, gave her the opportunity to use a feather in their circle. So I got a call out to a lot of the strong-hearted women to call that woman out on her shit. And then she turned around, she said that her ancestors of Scotland, when she was of Scottish blood, and I told her I've been to Scotland twice, and I have a sister up there in Vermont. Her name is Kiana Boyd. I don't mean to use her name on the airwaves without getting approval, but I said I can get a hold of her and she can correct you on that, because no Scottish person ever adapted indigenous culture by any means necessary, bad or good. And so when you listen to the issues that are being brought out tonight, there are more people that want to have a virtue of expressing what they heard from this woman. And I don't know if Journey Cruz is listening from Cuba. I called her to discretion, to call that woman out on that. And I called Antoinette. I called her. I called Naomi. I called Kiana. I called Irene. I called all the sisters in Strongheart to attack this woman, because this is the kind of shit that goes on in Indian country, and white America is responsible for that. Now, we all know this as adults. When we were kids being brought up in a mutual value system, if we went to the cookie jar, the first thing we would do is ask our parents if it was okay to open up that cookie jar and get a piece of a cookie or get one as whole, because that was an honor we had. And no white fucking little victimized little shithead or asshole is going to come into my sacred Black Hills and think that he has that type of power of authority. And Mrs. Barbara, she said that she always brings law enforcement again to being part of their gatherings to talk about, and that's how the feather was initiated to them. And they would hold that feather, and she said that she had the power of control to tell them to leave their firearms in their vehicles. That's bullshit. She ain't got that kind of power. But white people always protect their own by using their own, law enforcement. Well, goddammit, we got warrior societies that hate law enforcement. I mean, look what they've done to the African people in a lot of these major cities. Well, that's still happening in indigenous country. We just had another shooting in Rapid City. Mr. Swan and them guys can prove that. And so this is what we talk about. And then when we call out for other assistance from other people, we got pictures where even the American Indian movement are standing together with law enforcement when they are a fucking mortal enemy. And I got them pictures, and goddamn, it insults me. Russell Means is probably spinning around somewhere in the happy hunting grounds, pissed off about what AIM is doing. But the rest of the social media is not going to publicize what's going on here. And so if the rest of the listening audience is still on air, Brother Fireworker, I want to hear from these people, especially the ones from Cuba and elsewhere. So if you can, introduce them and give them a chance on the airplane, I want to hear their issue.
Do we have anybody on here from Cuba right now?
Yeah, hi, that's me, Journey Cruz.
How are you?
I'm
thank
good,
you.
thanks.
It's nice that you're on the show.
Thank you.
What do you have to share with us from Cuba?
Well, I just had something in mind, something that Canupa told me about this conversation with this woman who said they bring in law enforcement or police to their meetings prior to having their gatherings so that they can make sure that there's not too much blowback or violence from the police to their people. And I think from what he told me, like, he used the argument, or she was justifying bringing them in because, you know, if they don't, then the police come down on them really hard, but it sounds like they come down on them really hard anyway. And it's just like, well, how many large gatherings of, you know, people of color or indigenous people can do that? Like, have law enforcement come in and have them agree that they're not going to be violent towards them. And it's like, what are these people doing anyway? Are they really? I mean, I know that a lot of them come to these circles or these gatherings to promote world peace, and their intentions are good, but they're not really doing that, and they can't even really see how they're just promoting their own white privilege. And these gatherings are mostly white too.
Now, what is your name again?
Journey Cruz.
Journey Through?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have a question. You're in Cuba. How is the indigenous populations of Cuba aware of the plight of what's going on over? It seems like a lot of people right here on this land have no idea what's going on with each other, and you are in Cuba and supporting the indigenous people of Cuba, supporting the indigenous people here, and that's a wonderful thing. I love when I start seeing us connecting the dots. So that's great. How did you become a part of the support team?
Well, we have a lot of visitors, you know, come from this part of the world, and I've also made some trips out to, you know, Turtle Island. And, yep, that's how I know.
Okay, you got to see some of this crazy stuff over here. Cool.
Yeah.
Like what's happening now. Right. Okay. Well, wow. I really appreciate you sharing your point of view on this. Seems like the Rainbow People has made an impression around the globe.
Yeah, well, they have their gatherings around the world, and I'm sure they're going to make their way to Cuba soon.
Well, I hope they don't have any success there.
Thanks.
You should have a head start on blocking them off just by what you see going on over here. Hopefully, anyway.
Yes, there will be coming.
It really needs to be taken serious on what they're doing. People just really have no idea. I don't hear anything about this, and just in my neck of the woods where I'm at. I'm here next to the eastern band of the Cherokee. I'm next to the Catawbas. There's so many. I'm surrounded. The woodlands, you know, we're surrounded by so many tribes, and I don't hear anything about this, about what's going on out there in South Dakota. I have a sister on the phone with me from Cuba telling me what's going on right here, and I don't hear anybody right here in my area talking about this. That's a problem. So I'm hoping everybody that's on this line now, at least when this is done and when this interview is over and it's on YouTube, free for everybody to view it, share this and get it out to as many people as you can. Maybe some other people start talking about it. I'm sure just the way they are right now in South Dakota, they're going to start coming to other indigenous lands and trying to impose their filth on it sooner or later.
You know, if I may interject something, Firewalker.
Yes, sir.
I got a call from Antoinette down in Florida, and she told me that this Barbara lady was searching for other areas in the state of Wyoming. Now, again, there they go, looking for another place, but they too are going to meet resistance if they go into Wyoming. That's the Arapaho country. And the Arapaho were part of our great victory back in the Little Bighorn when we captured the American flag on the field of battle. And both, you know, all three tribes, the Lakota, the Arapaho, and Cheyenne, are still at war with the sons of bitches. And goddamn, this is what it comes to. The rest of the Indian nations, it's going to happen to you. If it breaks ice in the state of South Dakota, and from what we calculate through our own in communication with the outside, they tried that in Crow country. And the Crow people allowed them to come into their domain, and lo and behold, they were met with that type of chaotic behavior through that dysfunctional practice. And so when the Warrior Society of Rapid City, the urban guys, stepped up and they put a call out to everybody, it was our elders on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation that said, okay, let's get a hold of Strong Art to get them guys to get involved and back these guys as players. I never thought that these rainbow people, since they talk so, peaceful and loving and caring and sharing all their bullshit tactics, would follow the traditional protocols, when in fact they admitted this in national public radio and even in the news media that they knew that this Lakota territory still belongs to the Lakota people. And so right there, they're in grave violation. But when you allow the system to dictate your opposition, you will be met with resistance. And thanks to all the people that were involved on this short notice, we all came together to attack that problem. Because we're going to continue to keep this enforcement at the discretion on the international level, because I'm getting sick and tired of the white man thinking he has the power and the resources to try to control people at will. And that's what he's allowing right now, using his little fucking puppet victim little children, and they're all irresensible, pronounced because they all come from spoon-fed families by the elite. Bottom line. And that's why they act idiotically. They don't have no respect for themselves or the people that surround them. And I'm directly coming from them on a Lakota's point of view. Back to you, Pawa.
Canupa and all of my other friends on this call, do you think the rainbow people are being used by the government to destabilize Native nations, since they are occupying the sacred hills now out in your territory, and now they're looking at Wyoming? They contacted me, and who knows what other tribes they're contacting. Do you think they are being used like the ISIS of the United States?
They're all going to be, CIA operatives, and they're going to use their children. America has been known for that. I mean, many nations that are in this criteria are victimized themselves. And we're talking about the native nations, the indigenous. I don't care about the rest of the white society, but the point that I always try to express to national media is that when is white America going to start putting the real people first? And that's all us indigenous people. They've done this not only to the native people, but they've done it to our African brothers and sisters. They've done it to our Mexica brothers and sisters, and they also done it to our Asian people. And the thing about it is, here's all these other three colors of man created a fucking heaven for this white devil. And that's the truth. That's why we're always given jobs of slave labor to create your heaven. This is reality. But nobody gets into that purpose because we're supposed to be humble to these white people. How in the hell do they think that we can be humble when you have these people cut the testicles off my great-grandfathers, cut the private parts off of our children and our women and our elders, and yet alone they masquerade with that type of happiness? These fucking children are the same replicas of their fucking founding fathers in a country that never, ever belonged to them. And so that's always the point that I always fight to tell the rest of the media. Pay attention to your own fucking backyard rather than worrying about the shit outside my waters. We're living in a chaotic, communist country, but nobody even testifies about that. No one even in mainstream even puts the blame on white America, because all their tactics, I don't give a shit if it was with the Navy, Marines, Army, or the Air Force. All these tactics that they were brought forth to use in the guerrilla warfare were taught by indigenous people and African people, Asian people, and many others of color. And if you look at it truthfully, it is us joining their military brigades to serve the purpose to protect these white fucking devils. I am not going to allow that type of energy to take place where they are going to continue to allow that. Any foreign person that comes into my country gets everything on a silver platter. But when it comes to First Nation people, African people, and the people that are already here, we get nothing. We are brutally murdered by their second coming of what white man's probably described as police work. We're murdered every hour, every second, every day, every minute within our popular areas. And nobody makes the public cry because we got all these things that we got to meet in the criteria of white America. Well, it doesn't happen like that in the international community. Back to you.
Well, Canupa, that's the problem, man. All people of color, you know, whether they are African descent, whether they are First Nations people, or, you know, I'm going to use the term Hispanic, which those, you know, Hispanic is a messed up terminology and ethnicity in itself, but just to distinguish our family from the islands, all of us of color are being shot down in the streets by police. Some of it is publicized and some of it isn't. What I've noticed out in Indian country, most of it's not publicized. You don't see nothing about it on the news like that. The Nikanklaka of the Machika movement, they are having a strong movement right now to educate people on self-love, who you are, love your culture, learn about your culture, and try to distinguish who's out here trying to kill you or not. I mean, trying to shoot your people down in the street. A lot of what I've noticed, Canupa, a lot of people are not educating their children, and you know, you just becoming you are fair game.
You know, I'd like to add something to what Dwayne was saying. One way to prove that point on whether these rainbow people are being favored by their own kind and their government, just think about this scenario for a minute. You know, if we had 10, 15, 20 warrior societies from different tribal nations all go up in the Black Hills in that same spot to try to have a private camp up there going for 7, 8 days, whatever, you can pretty much bet they would prevent us from doing that. We'd have to pay this, or we wouldn't have authority to do that. I mean, these guys just walk in and was able to go wherever they went, and they found their own spot they wanted to be in, you know, and they're letting them be there. Now, another thing is when we had a huge rally about 3-4 years ago, and there was probably 300-400 Native people in this rally here in Rapid City, and we marched up the street to the hospital because of some racism done by the local hospital, and they had cops everywhere you could put a cop. They had cops in the air. There was rumors that the local National Guard was put on notice because they didn't know what to expect, you know. And now here you got, you know, thousands, literally thousands of people, most of them are all white hippie type people coming to a secretive place. They're not coming to a campground. They're not coming to a field somewhere that somebody owns that they can go and be secluded. They're coming right into the heart of the forest, and they're going to just set up their camp. Now you think about this, and I've got pictures of it. What they do is they dig this big old long trench that they can shit in and piss in, and they throw logs over it. They don't have any confinement or anything. They just shit and piss whenever out in the open in front of everybody. So they don't have no friggin' respect for themselves. They have no couth as human beings. They have nothing. They're just gross. And you know, you figure 7 to 20,000 people for a week. That's a lot of shit and piss that's going to be buried in our hills. And then, you know, and the last time they had one of these, it took 1 year for the land to come back to its natural place, you know, and it cost the state $10,000 in damages. They had to go in and clean up the mess, you know. So, but like I said, if we went up there with 7,000 to 8,000 Lakotas or Native Americans from all over to have our camp and a conference clear up secluded in the woods, I bet they wouldn't let us do it. You know.
Well, you know, during the time of Andrew Hitler Jackson, he made it his mission to kill all red sticks, and all warrior societies are nothing but another way of saying red sticks. You know, traditionalists. You know, not standing for the kind of crap that's going on out there now, and willing to take a stand against it. So yeah, of course, if a group from around this country of traditionalists got together, they're not going to allow that to happen. They won't allow that to happen. And actually, I would think that would be that would actually, in my opinion, be the wrong approach to go out there like that, because we know that they don't want us to communicate that way, and our communication should always be behind closed doors anyway, and not out in the public where they can put agents and infiltrate like they always do and stop you before you get anything done. But I understand your example, what you're saying. If we were out there, they would kill that. They would stop that immediately. Why they let the rainbow people parade and do what they want to do. I understand what you're saying.
Well, you know, Firewalker, this is it was the Forest Service that actually directed the Rainbow family down to the Tribal Council. So the Forest Service has sort of been orchestrating a lot of this with the Tribal Council ever since this started.
Who does the Forest Service work for?
What's that?
Who does the Forest Service work for?
That's the U.S. Forest Service.
Okay, so the government is orchestrating it.
Yep. So, you know, that's been evident, and I just heard it again tonight. I was talking to Barbara, the woman that Canupa mentioned, and you know, I humbled her real well, and cut through a lot of that white supremacist sort of attitude, and she admitted that it was the Forest Service that was the one that sort of secured their position in the hills, and it was them that actually sort of gave them the go ahead and do this. And so what's interesting is that in conjunction with our first action that we took against the Rainbow family on the 15th, 2 days ago, there was a letter sent. We didn't post it publicly, but there was a letter sent to the U.S. Forest Service outlining our expectations for how they were going to respond. And we called on the international law to say, hey, you know, you have a responsibility to uphold the sovereign jurisdiction of the Lakota people, and that's your responsibility. And since the Lakota are saying that the Rainbow family is not allowed within the Black Hills in Lakota territory, then it's your obligation to enforce that sovereign action. And so obviously that puts the U.S. government in a really tough position, because then they have to actually acknowledge the sovereignty and the independent jurisdiction of an independent Lakota nation. And so I think what we've seen happen is that they were not willing to do that, because if they did that for the Rainbow family, then they'd have to do that every time we say, hey, you know, we want this to happen, so you have to enforce this. And so I think this, I was describing it to someone later, I think these are moves in a big chess game. And, you know, like we've been talking about, Oyate has talked about it, and I know that Canupa's talked about it with you. You know, with the things that are happening in terms of sovereign jurisdiction over traditional territory and the assertion of customary law over parochial territory, I think the U.S. government is very nervous, and these are moves in a chess game, and right now their move is using the Rainbow family to try to slow down or try to not acknowledge the sovereign jurisdiction of an independent Lakota nation.
Well, it sounds like the government is
putting themselves in a position to be liable since they are allowing this to happen.
Well,
but I have a question.
When you ascertain that question more openly, remember, again, we're going to go back to this little dialogue of communication. The protocol, if it was met on behalf of people itself, we wouldn't face this type of discrepancy, okay, bad or good, because you have to use any bad or good in any situation to alleviate this problem that's going on in Indian country. But furthermore, to understand and ascertain this reality, unappropriate land, whether it's property, in private, or even public, it's still occupied under international nation status at the discretion of the Lakota people. And irregardless of how people approach it, we need more peoples, nations, to start standing on this reality, because when these white sons of bitches come knocking in your area, believe me, if it's going to be done here without resistance and we continue to allow them to enter our eminent domains without, the proper procedures and protocol, then goddammit, you are going to face resistance. And that goes for all the other nations that are going to listen to this show tonight and that are on the air. When you got people backed in the corner, goddammit, we're going to come out fighting this way because we're sick and tired of being told what to do. And enough of this compromisable dividend. We're sticking to our valid principles, and the reality is white man has perpetrated the abuse of their authority of power, thinking that they govern every color of man in my country known as Turtle Island. Back to you.
I have a question regarding the UN. A lot of Native nations have documents to show and prove their sovereignty, their certain documents that they have the rights to and the government doesn't have rights to. I know a lot of different nations prepare documents and go to the UN to try to get them to intercede on their behalf to try to get the United States to do what they're supposed to do for the first people. What I haven't seen yet is the UN force the United States to act on all of the fraud that has been proven and shown, the forged documents, all of the fraud from the east to the west coast with all the different nations. Everyone has approached the UN, but the UN has never, ever enforced the United States to do anything for our benefit. So I'm searching for some answers. Anybody have any solutions to that?
Yes, I have a solution to that. The Lakota people, and Strongheart in particular, had made that reconciliation of that understanding before the United Nations. But our plight to getting this understanding across is that we've been trying to get other nations to stand with us together, not in solidarity, but together to approach the belly of the beast and file complaints against the American system. Now, we, the Lakota people, have done that in 2013. And our recognition was that we were given the United Nations flag to operate as a module tool to watch all these discrepancies unfold at their discretion. And so every time when we try to get other nations to get on board, they think that, hey, we're calling a bluff here. We have the documentation to prove it. Our brothers and sisters up in Canada also stood in our solidarity and our togetherness. And then we're talking about the people up there, President by the name of Patrick Sorensen. These are the realities, and I'm pretty sure that Mr. Sorensen also gave some accreditation to the Yamasee people down in South Carolina. So this is the reality that we are talking about. If nations such as the Lakota and many others stand on that principle alone, we can make a difference. And we are not doing that. We are not doing that together, and that's why I stress this over and over beyond the context of reality, because we are always trying to beg the white man to do what is right for him when we already have the power to do it ourselves as a nation. Back to you, brother.
Well, what I hear you saying, Big Brother, is it's like a numbers game. You can go up. You can approach the UN by yourself and plead the case, but without the assistance of the rest of the nations, you're just one voice. So what you're saying is we need all of our nations to come and stand up as one voice, not just one person standing up as one voice or one group of people from one nation standing up as one voice. We need all of the indigenous nations to stand up as one voice, and then you'll be heard. That's what I'm hearing. Now, the problem, what I see is people are, looking at colonial history and what happened with the removal from the east to the west. Some people, the five civilized, as what they're called, some of them wanted to be white because that was the lifestyle. So today, with the casinos and all of the monies flowing through the tribe, I don't really see some of them standing up with us, standing up out there in the Dakotas with you. I don't see that happening, because to do that is biting the hand that's feeding them. I mean, do you agree with that?
Exactly, I agree with that, because that's the problem. Because when the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934 was forced upon our people, they did not have a full consensus to neutralize that standpoint. They went to nothing but half-breed people. And that's the reality. When you outline the half-breed people to do the dirty work for the majority body of free and independent people, of course we're going to, bite off the hand that feeds them, because we are the ones that are continuously trying to rid ourselves and get out of dormancy at their discretion. But in reality, the purpose that is not being brought forth. Now, many tribal governments in the Western Hemisphere and elsewhere had made one, traditional protocol. They continued to be wards of the federal government as state governments. And some of them were given a Public Law 280 recognition. Now, the Lakotas, on the other hand, in the state of South Dakota, where I'm at here on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, we are the only ones, and many other nations in my great country known as Turtle Island, not allowed to sit before the Council of Nations. America continues to represent us in that fashion, but no white man or even their form of government is going to talk for me. And so when you get back into that nation's pronunciation, it's going to take a majority of our people. And if you have delegates, maybe in the capacity of 3 to 4 members out of each nation, taking that stand, then and only then can the United Nations make that point of reaction. Because remember, we're not really looking at the map that did happen and unfold. It was the Soviet Union that filed a genocide complaint against the America. That is documented. And then, remember, America, Great Britain, New Zealand, Australia, these are all English-speaking countries that didn't want to sign off on the original, documentation of the real proclamation that was forced upon them to give us all, the independent statuses of what we are seeking for. But again, when you go back into the acts in Congress, you go back into the Treaty of Contract, all of them were invalid because we never, ever relinquished nation status. And if you look at every treaty that was recorded in our great country, not once do you see a woman's signature on them treaties. So that should tell us right there we still have nation status. And it's our women, especially within the Lakota territories, as well as the Cheyenne and Arapaho, it is our women that tell us what to do to be the warriors that we talk about within ourselves and as that nation representing, the body of a free and independent people that are struggling to remain free. Back to you.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. I want to give everybody on here opportunity to say any last words that you want to say. Before we do that, let me give you out my email, because I want you to be able to send me information if you have any info you want to send, maybe things for future interviews. My email is firewalkerpr. That's P as in Paul, R as in right. firewalkerpr@gmail.com. If you have anything that you want to send me, if you want to just correspond privately, get to know each other, future interviews or whatever, that's the best way to get me. And then from there on, we can probably exchange phone numbers. But any last words from anybody on this line? Nope. No last words?
Well, yes, I'll have some last words here. This is Canupa again with the Strongheart Warrior Society. My last-minute words would be, if white America really is, the protector of ceded and trust lands within our sacred territories, and I don't care what nation that is, on a stand to prevent, these white folks from entering our premises, we need to, force these regulations upon them. And if they still want to outline the treaty standpoints, then we need to act as nations and start signing complaints and filing complaints before the world courts in order for us to make a difference and a change. Because remember, it takes serious-minded people to make a difference in our own country. But you have to change yourself individually before you can change the rest of the world. And I thank you for allowing us to come on to your show tonight. For all the brothers and sisters that were on tonight, hey, my love go out to you guys. Let's keep resisting, man. Forward, because without our resistance today, hey, there's going to be no future for our children. And when our grandfathers finally decide to leave us and our grandmothers, this education system that's in place is not going to have a future if our language isn't continuously used as that purpose to remain free as an independent nation. Okay. Thank you, brother, for allowing us to come on.
Absolutely. To conclude on this, we know everyone is not going to jump on board and want to stand as one against this bully. Everybody's not going to want to do that because some people are getting fed steak while other people are getting crumbs. I'm talking about the people who are getting the welfare from the government. You're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. We already know that. So I'm not appealing to you. This is to you who are struggling for your identity, for your culture. And you may not have really dealt with a lot of opposition. Doesn't mean that you're not. You got to get it in your head and get it straight. We have been occupied. What's going on out there in South Dakota is just a little fragment of what has really happened on this whole continent. They're occupying the Black Hills out there. Well, all of them have occupied this whole continent. And let's look at the continent as it is. It's from what they call Canada to what they call South America. The borders don't stop at El Paso, Texas. The borders are from the oceans all the way up to the north. That's what they call them. That's Turtle Island, what they call America. We don't put those borders. So our unity, who we seek to unify with, is the natives throughout this entire continent. If you don't want to jump on board, fine, do what you got to do, and we will do what we have to do. We will continue to broadcast, and we will continue to put the voices on this show, on the Talking Stick Radio, the Firewalker Show, to speak against these people and what they're doing. Sacred ground where ancestors were buried out there in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and just being trampled over, disrespected, just no respect. But anyway, that's enough rambling. This is Firewalker. I appreciate you for listening in. I appreciate all my friends on this call. Until the next time, we will see you on the Talking Stick Radio Firewalker Show. Out.